Thank you so much for staying with us. Those laughing at us that we cannot do simple math, thank you so much for also not sharing the answer. Now, the status in Mbeere North constituency, I want to look at those numbers. You'll find that the valid votes so far is 8,144, and out of that, Leo Muthende is getting 3,945, and Newton Karish is getting 3,719. So the percentages are very close. It's about 46 against 47 or thereabout. That's how it's showing. Of course, still a long way to go. Then in Narok Town constituent, rather ward, where there is an MCA by-election, DCP is reporting 5,412, which is equivalent to more than 50%. It's actually 55%. And then for the UDA candidate posting 4,210, which again, if you are to convert that in terms of percentages, you're getting to 42.8%. That's how it's looking. Again, we're also watching other constituencies like Kasipul constituency in Homa Bay County. Boyd Were is ahead with 6,298 votes. Philip Aroko, an independent, has 3,502 votes. The constituency tallied so far, or rather the polling stations tallied 58 out of 142. So still a bit of work to be done there, but important to note that ODM is ahead in regards to that. We're also looking at other elections from the Ugunja constituency. As soon as we have the figures, I'll be sharing with you, but yeah, I'll share that with you because you're seeing some of the candidates posting the outcomes out of 7,476 votes so far tallied. Mheshimiwa Karoli Omondi, I had mentioned about the quality of leaders that you're going to get out of these elections, but at the same time, what does this election or the by-elections mean? On one side, you have the broad-based government of UDA, ODM, your party. On the other hand, you have the united opposition, the parties like DCP, DP, Wiper, sometimes the Jubilee Party, DAPK. What are you looking at it as?
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to consider is the fact that there are 17 ward by-elections and 6, I think, constituency by-elections.
Yep.
And the lowest level of measuring support is the ward. So in interpreting these results, one has to look at what has happened at the ward level in each of the by-elections. The constituencies will tell a story, but it may be different from what story the wards are telling. So I think that is important. The second one is, if you look at Banisa, for example, Banisa is basically, I think the UDA candidate has an upper hand there.
Yeah.
But the support for the UDA candidate in Banisa is actually borrowed from UDM, because UDM is the party of choice there.
Yeah.
And I think Governor Roba did very good work there. But because they chose not to put a candidate, I think they donated their candidate to UDA. So you need to understand what is happening in Banisa with that. When it comes to Mbeere, historical statistics show that the elections are always very narrow. The margin is very, very narrow.
Right.
And they are mainly clan-based. But when it comes to the presidential election, they tell a different story. Those clans, again, vote in a different way.
Right.
So anybody looking at Mbeere in terms of presidential elections need to really try and understand what the current results will mean in a presidential election. And I think Mbeere and Malava are very important for UDA, more than even they are important to united opposition. And in Malava, the history tells us they've never been in opposition in Malava.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so there, one has to really try and understand, because also there was a lot of violence. Yeah, and what exactly happened there, whether this time it will be still a close election or it could go the other way. I suspect Wiper will win in Mumbuni, and that will just reinforce their dominance in that area. For Ford Kenya, Chwele Kabuchai is a very interesting one because the MP there is Honorable Kalasinga, is elected on Ford Kenya. And as Dr. Echesa said, our Right Honorable Speaker, this is his home area. And it seems this has gone to the independent candidate supported by Natembeya. I think that sends a very strong message as to what is happening on the ground in not just Chwele Kabuchai, but in Bungoma as a county. When it comes to ODM, my party, Kasipul and Ugunja are not very consequential. Kasipul may be consequential in terms of showing that Aroko on his own, Philip Aroko on his own, could put up a fight against the entire party machinery and government machinery. And it has been very difficult for him because I remember there was an empowerment engagement there presided over by the Deputy President that raised 34 million, which was distributed to women in an election period. Yeah. And this is very strong. There's been a lot of resources applied there. So Aroko has been on his own. For him, in my view, whether he wins or not, it is how he has performed. And as I said before, Kasipul, after we lost the late engineer Odoyo Witi, Paddy Ahenda, who won the by-election, did not win the next general election. So there could be some shifts there. Magarini, I think for Kombe, he had very good individual support. I was there a few months ago in Magarini, and you could tell. But I think the individual, I mean, ODM had a very good candidate there. So that could go their way. But the places there where ODM has to pay a lot of attention to, Purko Ward in Kajiado, the governor is in ODM. The MP is in ODM, but UDA has won it. And ODM lost by a wide margin. They got 200 votes, the candidate there. While I think UDA had over 2,000 and the next had 1,500. Yes. That is serious. In Narok, that was also supposed to be a ODM stronghold. Masai Land has always been ODM stronghold. But it seems that now the fight is between DAP and... DCP, you mean? Yeah, which is Gashago's party, DCP? DCP. DCP? Yes. And UDA. So that should tell you what the fortunes of ODM are in Narok. Kisia East, Quisero, ODM offered nomination to 2 candidates who declined. The MP is ODM. Quisero has had 6 MPs since the constituency was established. Of those 3 have been in ODM. Yeah? But here, again, ODM did not even have a candidate. So something is happening here. And the opposition won it. Yeah? The United Opposition. Nyamira has been an ODM stronghold. There were 3 by-elections, and all, from the information I have, all have been won by United Opposition in Nyamira. Right. So I think what these things are telling us is that Mount Kenya area, Eastern, Western, and Gusii Nyanza, right, I think are moving in one direction politically. And these are the early days. And it could just transform into a very formidable political formation going forward. That's my reading of this. Interesting. There are things you're not saying, but perhaps you'll allow it time. Sheila, the impact of this to these broad formations, broad-based government, and then these are the end United Opposition.
I think the impact is quite simple. 2027 will be a contest between the individual who's running and the people that they're representing. If you look at the results that we're seeing at the ward level, for example, the fact that the Speaker's ward ended up going to an independent candidate who was actually being supported by the opposition, I think it just goes to show that when you leave Wananchi on their own and give them the time and the breadth and the space to elect who they want, you'd be surprised at the different individuals that they'll end up electing without them being pushed or coerced so much. Yep. It is a call for anyone who's running for office in 2027 that it needs to be between you, the people on the ground, and the agenda that you have for them, the vision that you're carrying for them, and what you need to deliver. I come from Migori County, And so we are in the ODM Luo Nyanza block. 2027 will be the first time where, honestly, it will be between you and the electorate, you and selling your agenda to the electorate without this shield that we've always had, that before you talk to anyone, the first thing they will ask you is which party are you in, and either you are welcomed, embraced, or dismissed. That will not be the case anymore. And it's a win, it's a plus for our democracy. And that's why we need to ensure that we have systems in place in order to protect Kenyans. We really, again, I cannot insist enough that we need to reduce the level of coercion that we are giving to the voter before they get to the ballot, and be a bit clear on the electoral laws and what can and cannot be done. Because first of all, this is not sustainable. I don't know, in a country where we have such high debt, where we are expecting this kind of money to be spent on just an election. I mean, an election is not the end of the world. Today, somebody will be chosen, and whoever is chosen, by the way, is supposed to work for everybody that they're representing. Whether that was your candidate or that wasn't your candidate, you're supposed to be representing everybody. So it's a misused way of spending our resources, if you ask me, and that really needs to be cut and capped. Also, if we continue this way, we are going to underrepresent people who would have made very good leaders, because we are making electioneering to be an extremely expensive endeavor. I think Mheshimiwa Karoli here was talking about, if you have raised 34 million during election period for one candidate and then the other one does not have that, I mean, what does that mean for everybody? So we should not make it so that it becomes extremely difficult or almost impossible for people to run. It's not supposed to. It's the job of the people who are there, actually, even the parliamentarians, it's going to be legislation, representation, and oversight. And sometimes you have them sitting in parliament without even understanding the job description, because maybe they were the highest bidders who showed up, or maybe they had the system, and that becomes problematic. So we need to guard religiously the process of electing our leaders, because the problem we have in Kenya now is not that we don't have good resources. It's not that we don't have good brains and very well-educated people. It's not that we don't have good weather. We are having a governance crisis, a governance issue. And this is the process where we get to elect these leaders who will then go out and represent us. So we need to make sure that we maintain the integrity of this particular process. But what it means is it is you and it is the ground. So if you don't understand some basic things that will be affecting this country, as an economist, for me, it will be whoever will take us through an economic revolution, whoever will see us to the other side of figuring out the economy. Center to that will be whoever will, crack the code of youth unemployment, whoever will crack the code of good governance, whoever will crack the code of debt. These are the big issues that we're grappling with, and that's the one that will carry the day. So we need to really try to, between now and 2027, give the voters a bit of a break. Let people rest and ease up. Let's maintain the integrity of the electoral process. Let IEBC go back to the drawing board, look at what worked well, what did not work well. Security is a big problem. I think there should be better, harsher punishments for people who... I don't like the concept of losing lives because of election. I think it's the most useless thing in the entire universe. It's not the end of the world if you are not elected to a particular position. There should be harsher, tougher consequences. I mean, if you run around having a paramilitary, then you should just be disqualified from participating in the election. I think we should look into that.
Sure. Now, the latest from Ugunja constituency, the other by-election that are watching, out of registered voters, 60,114, those reporting ODM candidate by the name, let me get the name correct, Omondi Moses Okoth is leading with 64.3% of the vote at 4,810 votes. Then Wiper candidate, that is, let me get the name correct. Where did you go? Yes, this is Odhiambo Johannes Orodi Javan, is following with 1,298 votes. That is equivalent to 17.4%. The other candidates have posted different votes, including one with a 515, another with 108. So that's how it's looking so far, and you continue to monitor as it progresses. Now, Professor, I had asked a question about the quality of leaders, and when you look at the campaign season, what you will remember are the slogans. There are those that will say it's one term, others will say it's two term. Then Professor Kindiki will say Omothende in quick succession. then Newton Karish will come and mimic him and make fun of how he speaks. If you go to other constituencies like Kasipo, then you find the broad-based government appearing there to campaign for the candidate, but you never hear them speak about policy or even what they want to go and do in the House, apart from, I think, Omothendo was promising piped water or something like that. Are we losing their sense of elections? Because recently, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua complained about the quality. But if you look at the candidates that have been offered in this by-election, what do you say?
I think the president set the bar very high by saying that we are eligible in the shortest time possible, particularly if he gets power, to become a first world. The reality on the ground is that we are not even near achieving our own vision, our 2030 goal of becoming a middle income. The reason being, and I've said this before, we have missed the train. The train is you put your best and ablest in positions of decision making, so that you make informed decisions that propel you to higher level. And this is what Lee Kuan Yew and other leaders of the Asian tigers actually told us. They have written in their books, their speeches, that if you don't put the best minds in positions, that you're not going anywhere. Now, when you come to the imperative of this by-election as it is now, we have a lot of emphasis, a lot of resources, a lot of energy went into winning the 7 seats, 1 senator and 6 MPs. I know there has been a lot of energy also put on the other 17 seats, but it's not proportional to this. Why? Because it's a context. So it is not whether the candidates are worth the seats or are going to improve on us or on our welfare as a country, on our leadership, but because, one, you want to appear that you are going to perform very well in 2027. So there is a shadow of the 2027 election hanging over your head. Second, and this might sound controversial, but it is not. It is the fear of impeachment. With the death of Raila Odinga and the situation in ODM, everything is a toss-up now. And therefore, you need these seats. You need to clinch these seats, particularly the ones that are closer to you, so that you have control over parliament. Because the real threat now to the current government from now up to 2027 is any chance that somebody can come with an impeachment bill and put it in parliament. It may not get through, but it is going to cause such havoc within our politics and such panic. And therefore, it is important to show, to make a show of victory, particularly in parliament. And that point should not be lost. And therefore, rhetoric won or trumped over policy. Because policy was not important at this point. It was money, it was gifts, it was unga, and not the word. It is not about the vision that you have for Kenya, or for the constituency, or for the word. And this is the problem with the democracy, and I've said this before, where you elect the sweet or candy seller and vote out the doctor, the dentist, accusing the dentist that he's going to cause you pain and draw your blood. And the sweet seller will make your life so sweet throughout the 5 years. So and unfortunately, it's the doctors you are giving more work, because you have to put out your teeth spoiled by eating too much sweet. So we must be very careful that we are not voting all the time the candy sellers. Yeah. Because it's these candy sellers that are really making our life unfortunate. I was reading Mutuli's book, and I will say this and stop. And I'd heard from him before, particularly in 2022, when we have these kind of conversations, that our leadership, I'm not talking about those who are being elected, those who are presiding of a decision of what quality of leadership we should have in this country, landed a file on his desk as Speaker of National Assembly. He opened it and looked in and did not find any paper, no CPE certificate, no Form 4 certificate, no Form 6, no university degree. And he, in his mind, he thought this file is empty. Somebody failed to put the papers.
Yeah.
He sent it back for papers to be put. Then a call came through from some high places and said, consider that file as it is. And from that point, we have a person sitting on our cabinet seat. Shame on us.
Now, finally,
this is what you are finding.
Dr. Chesa, you have the unenviable role to give us closing remarks. Now, as all this is happening, there are members of parliament that have been elected, members of county assemblies that have been elected. Of course, the declaration will happen later. But given the campaigns, they are already betrothed to a certain leader at the top, and they're supposed to oversight those leaders. How exactly can that happen in our setup?
I think that has been our major problem as a country. You know, the architect of our constitution gives us a very powerful and robust parliament, but the power we sent to that particular house defeat every intent and purpose for which parliament was formed. I can say with finality that we have been losing the quality of parliament in every electoral cycle. Look at the parliament that was sworn in 2007. Then compare it to 2013, 2017. I think 2022 we've had the worst parliament, and 2027, I wonder how good people like Carol Omondi will survive in 2027 in parliament with the kind of people we are likely to elect. I remember some that in Kakamega, for example, the first county assembly, one MCA was unable to take oath of office and he was assisted. Because what was saying I, he kept on saying one. And then the speaker would say, it is not one, say I. And eventually he took that oath of office. Perhaps it is time to know that if we have a functional parliament, it matters not the level of qualification of a cabinet secretary. It matters not the heart and the truthfulness of a sitting president, but parliament can cure all the diseases that are brought about by an incompetent and inept executive. But once we lose parliament, we've lost all arms of government, we've lost all the future, and as Imbuga will say in his books, we have killed our past and we are now busy destroying our future.
All right. Now,
a very quick one. In Bere, I'm an elected member of the National Assembly. Was addressing Muturi, and he talked about Anthony, which is supposed to be Anthony, Jero, which is supposed to be General. So already Muturi has his two names.
Well, I thought it's mother tongue influence.
No.
Anthony Jero.
It's something else.
It's Anthony Jero.
Yeah, okay. Now, we'll not go into the details of that because we are out of time. And people can say a lot of things. Now, in Kasipul constituency, Boyd Were of ODM is leading with 52.9% of the vote. Philip Aroko is following with 29%. So far, 13,525 valid votes have been tallied. And these are 67 out of 142 polling stations reporting. Now, you will see at the bottom of your screen that we are giving you the figures as verified by IEBC. These are the tallies from the various tallying centers. The details including Kasipul, there's Mbeere North, and of course the other constituencies, and Baringo Senate, and also the various interesting wards that we've seen. Again, 17 were going into the election. There was declared no contest in 2, so 15 went to the active voting. And already Purko ward in Kajiado County has been declared going to the UDA candidate and the DCP candidate following at a distance. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Karoli Omondi, Professor Kogwanja, Dr. Kennedy Chesa, and Sheila Olang for making time for us. We started this show on Thursday. It's now Friday, and it's our time to wish you the very best. Citizen TV will stay with you, and we'll be sure to bring you the results. We expect that by morning, most of these races will have been called. Good night. My name is Sam Gichuku. See you again some other time.